So good afternoon, students. We're going to start going through the homework on Unit 6 homework packet. But before we start the homework, I wanted to go through something because we're going to start with a review of ionic compounds. And so I know most of you have been saying, how do we do this? How do we know which rule to follow? How do we? So we've kind of thought about it as chemistry teachers and kind of came up with this kind of guidance. So remember, ionic compound is a metal and a non-metal. And so if you take metal, and if it's in groups 1, 2, or 13, then it will have no Roman numeral when you name it, or when you when you name it. If it is in anywhere else, then it will be Roman numeral based on metal's charge. Okay, so if the charge of copper is +1, then it'll be copper 1, Roman numeral 1. There are some exceptions to this rule. Remember that silver is always +1, cadmium and zinc are always +2. Okay? So other than that, remember those are your charges. For nonmetals, because this is what confuses a lot of students, you have to look at, is it a single element, such as phosphorus or nitrogen or oxygen or whatever, or is it more than one element, more than a single element? If it's a single element, then it ends with IDE. Okay, ends in IDE. Clear that up a little bit. If it's multiple elements, then it will end with 8 or ite. And there are some exceptions to this, and they are cyanide, which is CN, and hydroxide, which is OH, -1, -1. Okay, so those are basically the rules for naming things. So now let's go up here and let's look at some of these homework, and we're going to use these to help us out. So number 1, strontium. So strontium, you look at your handy dandy periodic table. Strontium is here in group 2. So that's why it has no Roman numeral. It's in group 2. Phosphide. Well, phosphide, it has an "ide." It's not an exception to the rule. You look down at the bottom. It's not an exception to the rule. So therefore it must be a single element. And so write it out. Strontium is SR. And it's +2 because it's in group 2. And phosphide is just P. And it's in group 15, so it has to be a -3. And then remember, we're going to move our charges to the opposite bottom side, so the 3 will go down here, and the 2 will go over here. Okay, that's how we do it. So let's continue on. We'll play kind of a tic-tac-toe pattern. Aluminum nitride. So aluminum. Well, find aluminum. Here's aluminum. What group is it in? He's in group 13. Notice he has no Roman numeral, so we're going to write aluminum down. do the charge of aluminum. It'll be +3. Nitride. Well, let's look down here at the bottom. Nitride, it's not one of these exceptions. It doesn't end in 8 or ite, so it must be a single element, so it must be nitride would be nitrogen. And nitrogen's in group 15. And group 15 has a -3 charge. So here's the deal. If the charges are the same, you have 3 and 3, then they actually cancel each other out. So we'll just move them down and then reduce it. So when you reduce, you would just pull the 3 out, so it would be written like 3ALN. Okay, that 3 just is reduced and pulled out. Let's try number 4. So we have potassium, sulfite. Okay, so let's look at potassium. Where's potassium at? My handy dandy periodic table. There he is. He's in group 1, so we know that there's no Roman numeral. If he's in group 1, then he has to be a +1. Sulfite. Oh dear, ite. So if it's ite, oh, ends in ite. So then that means I'm going to have to look at somewhere else on the periodic table. It's not going to be here. I'm going to look here now. Sulfites, SO3 -2. So let me write that down. Periodic table likes to get in my way. Once again, move your charges across to the opposite side. Do not add or subtract your charges, just simply move them. Just move them. And the 1 we don't write again, but it's right there. Okay, let's go to one of these other ones. So let's look at number 8. Number 8, look at there. He has a Roman numeral. Dun dun dun. So manganese must be found where? Must be found somewhere besides group 1, 2, or 13. And ta-da, there's Mr. Manganese right there, group 7. So remember, that charge tells us the charge. So we know manganese is a metal. The metals are always positive. So it'll be +4. Oxide. Ide is an ending for a single element. Oxygen is O. And it has a -2 charge. Okay? It's in group 16. 16 wants to get to 18, so it's -2. Move my numbers. And whenever you see numbers where they have a common factor in them, like 2, you're going to have to think about reducing. So these are going to be reduced down. Uh-oh. That'll be a 1, be a 2, and I'm going to pull a 2 out, because that's what I reduced it by. Because basically 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 times 2 is 4, so that's the same thing, just reduced down. And this is what they call an empirical formula versus a molecular formula. Okay, so there's just a free, easy statement for you. All right, last one we're going to do is number 11. It's hard to read, but it's silver chloride. So silver is one of those exceptions to the rules. It's a metal. If I look down here, remember silver. Oh, ta-da, there's silver. It always has a +1 charge. So that's why we didn't write a Roman numeral, because we know it's always going to be that charge in this class. So we'll write silver. Another name for them is a chromium. That's where the symbol AG actually comes from. +1, because we already know that. Chloride. Ide is a single element. It's group 17, so it's -1 charge. Because the charges are the same, we'll cross them, but we don't write 1s out. Alright, so that's page 1. We have to do page 2 also tonight. Let's flip to page 2. Oh, page 2 is just the opposite, it's naming. So we'll start with, let's see which ones I want to do. Do that one. Do number 7. Do something easy like number 12. Alright, I'll do those. Alright, so start with number 1, Be. Okay, so Be, let's find him. We know he's a metal because this is ionic bonding. It tells us ionic naming, that means metal, non-metal. Metal plus non-metal. Okay, so barium is here. Or beryllium, I'm sorry, Be is beryllium, so I'll just write that down. So, is beryllium in group 1, 2, or 13? He's in group 2, so we do not need a Roman numeral. Remember, no Roman numeral. So now we're going to look over here, NO2. If it's in parentheses, then you're going to look at your polyatomic list. If it's in parentheses, look at this list. NO2 is right here. It's a nitrite ion. There you go. That's all I had to do. Woo, that was so easy, Mr. Ross. Thank you. No, it's okay. It's not that easy. Hard. Alright, number 7. FeN. So, Fe. Surely by now you remember Fe. So we're just going to name them. Fe we know is iron. N is nitrogen. But remember, when it bonds, it's no longer nitrogen, it's now nitride. But iron, is iron in group 1, 2, or 13? No, iron's here in the middle. So iron has to have a what? A Roman numeral. But you're saying, yo dude, how do I get a Roman numeral? Because isn't the Roman numeral 1? No, it's not. So what we have to do is we now have to look at charges. Well, nitrogen's charge is constant. It never changes. Nitrogen always has a -3 charge. And remember, if it's 1 to 1 here, if there's no numbers here, the charges have to be the same. One's a negative and one's a positive. The numbers have to be the same. So if iron is a -3, and we know that because it's in group 15, and he will always be a -3. Always, 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 always. Then iron has to be a +3 because iron is a metal. And therefore there's his Roman numeral. So it's iron 3 nitride. So remember, when you look at a metal, transition metal and a non-metal, which is an ionic bond, figure out the charge of the non-metal, and then if it's whatever the number is here, multiply it by that, and that'll be the charge of the iron, or of the metal, sorry. Okay, let's jump down here to number 12. Let's see if it works down here. Number 12. Oh, Cr3PO4 with a 2 outside. So, first things first, Cr. Well, where's Cr? Cr. There he is. Is he in group 1, 2, or 13? Nope. So, because he's not, we know we're going to need a Roman numeral, so Cr is chromium. Okay. PO4, well, it's one of those in parentheses. So if it's in parentheses, when you come over here, PO4, it's a phosphate. Phosphate. Alright, now, so we've taken care of that. We're going to get rid of it so we don't need to worry about it. Now, when you look at charges of chromium, remember, you had to switch the numbers to get the formula. So you're going to take the numbers and move them back. This 2 over here, and on every element, every compound you ever look at, the number outside here is always the charge of the metal. So it's chromium 2 phosphate. Okay? So the number outside right here is always the charge of the metal, which is Cr in this case. Number 16, BAS. Okay, so BA, well, let's find BA. Oh, there he is. So he's in group 2. So we know if he's in group 2, then no Roman numeral, so we'll just name him barium, and then sulfur, but it turns to sulfide because he's a single element that's bonded. That's why we need to make sure we name him right. And last one, number 22, we have K, so K is potassium. Something in parentheses, so if it's in parentheses, we gotta look over here. And we find CN, there he is, and he's cyanide. Remember, potassium's in group 1, so no need for a Roman numeral. Alright, so that's all the homework help for tonight. Remember, use that little thing on the front, and that might help you a lot. Have a great evening.